Coaches, what's going on? It's Coach Ian Tatum here, back with another clinic series video. And today I have a very special guest, Coach Scott Maxwell. Coach is the OC and quarterbacks coach. Is it Saugus, Coach?
Yeah, Saugus.
Saugus High School in California. Coach has been gracious to come on and talk with us a little bit. Coach has been coaching for 12 years, 7 on offense, 5 on defense. So he's got a great perspective on both sides of the ball. 6 years being the OC. He took a team that had won 2 games the past 2 years, and they tied the school record for wins in the season. He also has a wing tee background, but now their offense is rooted in the spread. And when we get to the clinic side of it, Coach is going to talk about stack and bunch attack, offensive attack. So, Coach, appreciate you being here on the Tatum Clinic series. Excited to get you on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Excited to share. I will say this is my first talk. Never been super interested in doing one of these. Didn't feel like I probably knew enough, but I feel like I'm at the point now where it's like, man, I'm ready to start sharing. And I feel like this is a great way to connect with other people and just kind of grow the brotherhood of coaching and share that knowledge.
For sure. Yeah, this is that's 100% what the clinic series is about. It was to give coaches a venue to kind of either get their first talk or their 100th talk. Doesn't matter, but they get to talk in front of maybe a new audience and get to express some things they're doing well, So definitely wanted to give guys that avenue because I know it's been like, hey, I don't know if I'm ready to talk, or what if what I'm talking about everybody else is doing. Like, well, it doesn't matter. Everybody can take one or two little nuggets from a speaker. But before we get into the X's and O's, Coach, talk to us a little bit about you, like growing up, stuff like that, and then just your experience in football all the way till now.
Yeah, so didn't play football growing up. Was a soccer kid. I was one of those really fast kids. They just kick the ball up and I'd run it down and put it in the back of the net. All my buddies started playing football, and so I was a year late. I let them play 1 year, and I was like, oh, seems kind of fun. So joined up, started playing, played 9th grade, tackle all the way through the end of high school. I played at a school called Village Christian here in LA. And that's really where I got my understanding of football. We were wing T. My head coach at the time, Jeff Cortez, if anyone's from this area in the high desert, they would know that name. Now he's out in Tennessee, but that was really the foundation of football for me, and just absolutely fell in love with, one, the team camaraderie, 2, obviously the strategy of it. Like I was a big player of chess growing up. That was something my grandpa taught me from a young age, and how your pieces move a certain way, planning steps ahead, how to orchestrate a strategy. And so I feel like a lot of those skills is one of the reasons that I enjoy offensive football. Not saying I don't enjoy defense. I've obviously coached it for years, but I feel like offense allows you to really create the vision that you want to present rather than just kind of being reactive to the image that is presented to you on offense. Ended up playing for 4 years, loved it, decided to chase the dream of playing in college. Did that 1 year down in San Diego, decided that it was done for me playing wise and I wanted to get onto the coaching side. Took a year off, was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. My old defensive coordinator got a head coaching job at actually my old high school's rival. And so I sent him a message and I said, hey, you looking for any help? He said, absolutely. So that was my first job. It was a school that actually had been around for quite a while, but it had acquired another school, and it had become Heritage Christian. And so first year of that school being established, really, first year of that program being established, and was there for 5 seasons, and we made the playoffs every year. And, from starting as a receivers coach that first year, that next year, our offensive coordinator ended up leaving about halfway through the season. So I took on that job and then just continued being the offensive coordinator there for the next couple of years. Every year we got better. We went from 5-6, and continue to get better. And that last year that I was there, we went 10-0, first perfect regular season in school history. Did some great things with the players that we had. At that point, I had finished up my college education, knew that I wanted to be a coach. And some of the career paths that I was looking at really didn't kind of fit and allow that to be a priority. And so I decided to go back to school and get my teaching credential. That's where Saugus kind of comes into play. My head coach here at Saugus, Coach Jason Bourne's a phenomenal guy. A lot of people in the coaching community will know him from out here in the California area. He was actually a teammate of my head coach that I played for. So I reached out to him. I just said, hey, dude, like, I don't understand how to become a teacher. Like, give me some guidance. And so he walked me through that, got into a teaching program. So that was 2019. I started at Saugus and then been there ever since. We've been kind of up and down as far as 2019 was a little rough of a year. Obviously, that led into the 2020 with COVID. Being out here, right, we had a spring season. And so I just remember being here in 2020, and we're in a league that's very competitive. We've got, a lot of great teams. Some of the notable ones people might know is Canyon. That was a team that was led by Harry Welch, one of the legendary coaches from out here. We've also got Hart, who's put a bunch of quarterbacks in college football and into the NFL, Matt Moore probably being the most notable. And then we've also got Valencia, who's a pretty big powerhouse out here. And so 2020 was a tough year because we had the makings of a championship team and we just wanted the chance to do it. We finally got on the grass in the spring. We snapped Valencia's winning streak of 13 years in a row for the league. We took home the league championship, followed up in 2021 with another league championship. 2022 comes, we come in second. We drop one game in league, unfortunately, so we come in second to West Ranch. Their starting quarterback's Ryan Staub, who was at Colorado, who's now at Tennessee. And then, we kind of hit a wall there. 2023 was a little rough, man. Go 0-10. It's rough losing 10 games in a row when the last 3 years you only lost 5 games in 3 years. But it was a good learning experience. A lot of people say it's easy to coach and show up for your kids and to keep a smile on your face and to not change when you're winning. And it's really hard to do that right when you're facing a lot of adversity. But our staff stuck together and learned, and our kids did. And 2024 was a very tough year personally for me. And then 25, obviously this past year was great. And a lot of our seniors that led this team in 2025 to the best record in school history were sophomores in that 23 class when they went 0-10. And they probably shouldn't have been playing varsity football. It probably was too early for them. But out of necessity, they played and they learned. And it wasn't always fun for them, obviously, going 0-10. And then the next year going 2-8, but they stuck the course. They believed in our vision. And for that, I'm, very, very thankful.
No doubt. So going back and forth. So did you coach defense at Saugus, or was that your previous stop?
Yeah. So I actually had only coached offense when I was at my previous stop at Heritage Christian. I was always on offense, and it was a small school. It was an enrollment of like 350 kids. So, right, I was coaching everything. I was basically getting dads that wanted to coach and coaching them up on how to coach their positions.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Saugus, there was no opening on the offensive side. But right, I wanted a job. And so Coach Bourne gave me the corners and the safeties, and we're a cover 4, like man match saving system sort of deal. And so I, dove into that during COVID, learned everything I could. And then coached that for 2020, 2021, 2022. And then in 23, then I started getting split. I was coaching the corners and coaching the quarterbacks. And then in 24 on, just quarterbacks and being the
Yeah.
OC.
So what did you play in high school? Because you said you were the fast kid, like on the soccer team. So what did you play like in high school?
Yeah, so I played receiver and then I played DB. I started out playing corner, kind of went flip flopped back and forth every year, basically in high school. Cover 4, cover 3, cover 2, and then as a sophomore I played safety. And then by my senior year, we like went to cover 4 man match, and I didn't understand the concept of like, what do you mean I'm not guarding the zone? I've got this guy after a certain distance. And I just told my DC at a certain point, I was like, hey, dude, can you just let me guard the number 1 receiver? And then the other 10 guys just do whatever you need them to do. And that's what we did. So when I went to go play in college, I played receiver because I didn't want to tackle these big ass running backs running downhill anymore. Mm-hmm. So I had enough of that.
No doubt. And I know, California football is one of the top, states, obviously, for high school football. And people know like the big schools like Mission Viejo and Bosco and Mater Dei and all those. But like, talk to us about, coaching at where you are. And what's the style of football? Like some places like like Midwest or like upper Midwest is like, oh, we run the ball a lot, it's double tight end, and then you have some other places where it's straight up spread and stuff like that, or rural places is wing T. Like what is at least at where you are in California? What do you usually see?
Yeah, well, we see a lot of shotgun offense. I'll be honest, it's really, really rare to see anybody get under center. I will say Valencia, which is like I said, our big rival. They were one of the teams that they would have been almost, I don't want to say exclusively shotgun, but probably 98% shotgun. They'd get under center for some of their like heavy package goal line stuff. But they basically like went a large majority under center this year because of their quarterback's preference and some of the other things they want to do offensively. It's a lot of spread. I would probably say it's a lot of what you're seeing in college football, where people are going spread, they're going 11 personnel, Y tight end off. It's really hard to find people going hand in the dirt tight end. You'll come across certain private schools who are obviously, because they're private, they're able to recruit the kind of personnel they want. And so those will be the ones that have some consistency as far as scheme of always having tight end bodies. And so they always present tight end sets. But, as far as a lot of the schools that we see, it is a lot of shotgun spread. Not a whole lot of pistol, not a whole lot of wing T. Obviously, a lot of my coaching staff gives me a hard time about being wing T because every time I see, it makes me happy inside. Mm-hmm. But then it makes me unhappy when they're doing it wrong or not being true to it. But in our league, it's really interesting because we'll get a bunch of people that are, tight end wing, twin receivers. We saw a bunch of people go like single wing this year because of personnel. And then, it was a lot of like 10, 11 personnel kind of stuff.
Gotcha. So with that being said, in your perfect world, your offensive philosophy, what would you be? Right? If you're doing it, great. If you had like perfect personnel, what would you be in, and what would you ideally run offensively?
Yeah, I'd love to have. I'd love to just run gap scheme. Okay. I understand the need for inside zone, and you're going to see inside zone on the film. There was somebody on YouTube and Twitter. His name is Josh Snow. He's a good resource as far as he's been at the college level, and he kind of talks about inside zone and like he loves gap scheme and but understands the need because of the RPO world to have inside zone. And I'm kind of the same way. It's kind of like I don't really love inside zone unless you're just like really big and strong. Yeah. Obviously going back to the wing T of just like gaps and angles and moving people horizontally. That's kind of what my love is. I'd love to have a tight end who can, kind of be receiver, but also get in the box and, pull and kick out and such like that. So yeah, perfect world. I'm probably 10, 11 personnel with a tight end hybrid. running mainly gap scheme or inside zone slice, and then drop back pass and some quick game RPO stuff attached to it.
Heck yeah. So this is kind of a like I'll put it on you real quick, and I'll talk afterwards. I ask you so you can think about it. Like, what do you think outside of the Jimmys and Joes? What do you think are the little things that go into a practice or the weight room or like that? What goes into developing players to win games? What, and that's kind of a loaded question, but like if you could nail it down to, hey, these are 3 or 4 things that you've got to do that maybe don't get to shine as other things that you have to do in order to win football games.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say obviously the first thing is taking care of the football on the field,
Mm-hmm.
like and practicing that. Obviously, like the number one predictor of winning football games is 1, scoring points, and 2, how many times do you give it away or take it away. So like the first thing that came to my head when you said like, how am I going to help my players be productive and help us win football games is put them in the scenarios that they're going to encounter in the game. And practice what that's going to be like. One of the big things that we did this year that I thought was really great was, we did what we call like open downs, where it's like, hey, it's just 1st and 10, we're on the 40. Like, what are we going to run? Whether it be 7 on or RPO periods, because that was something that I wanted to really specify with my kids. Like, hey, right now we're in run/RPO period for the next 10 minutes. So working on just these run RPO calls. And these are the looks we're going to see when we're kind of just in the open field, right? Okay, that's Tuesday, right? Okay, now Wednesday, we're going to move down to the red zone. So we're going to be from the 20, or we put it on the 18. And then we're going to practice what we're going to see from there. Okay, now we're going to get on the 7. Now what are we going to see from there? And again, when we specified those periods of, hey, this is run RPO, this is pass under pressure. So now we're going to see mainly blitz. And we still need to throw the ball. And then we're also going to screen them out of here. And then when we get in the red zone, and then once we get in the red zone, we kind of just practicing what our specific concepts are for obviously like that condensed space. But you probably know it as well. Like once you get inside the 20, right, blitz rates go up, coverages get pretty predictable. So I'd say like getting your kids ready for exactly what they're going to see. And whether that's, hey, they're a 4-4, cover 3, cover 1 team. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to install for Monday, and then Tuesday we're just going to practice cover 3, and then Wednesday we're going to just practice cover 1, and then Thursday we're going to recap everything. Like however you want to dissect it, but I feel like our kids now need to very well understand what am I going to do on Friday nights and how do I win when I get that presentation. Like obviously once we get into the stacks and bunches, I kind of have an example of like, hey, like these are really the 3 ways that you're going to be presented defensive structure wise versus this look. And then we would just practice that all the time. We'd get on the sideline, we'd put 2 guys, and I'd say, hey, defensive coaches, put a corner and a safety or a corner and a backer. I don't care where you put them, but let's throw the ball out there. One guy's going to block. You got to make the other guy miss. And then throughout the year, we just had that kind of presentation, and those kids had those reps banked, and they understood what they were supposed to do. So I'd say taking care of the football, putting your kids in positions, and making sure that they understand what the plan is for when they get in those positions. And try not to do too much. Like
that's a big one right there.
Yeah. Like I know obviously this is very close to the end of football season. Obviously the NFL is still playing here and NCAA just wrapped up, but you're going to see a lot of great stuff on Twitter and a lot of great content here on your page and on other, whether you go to Glacier or whoever, and you're going to see a lot and you're going to want to do a lot because it's sexy, but you got to find a couple of core concepts that your kids really understand and are vital and able to be used against multiple looks. And again, I always look at it through the lens of the offensive line and the quarterback. Like the skill kids, honestly, in our offense, they just hear what they need to hear and they don't really know what's going on big picture wise sometimes. that offensive line, they need to work together as the most cohesive unit on your team. And so you got to make it easy and understandable for those kids so they can operate. Because when those kids operate and they don't screw up, then that's one less thing for your quarterback to worry about.
Yeah.
And then he needs to do. And obviously making sure that, what you're asking for him to do, that he can understand and then execute with his athletic ability and throwing wise.
Well, I love hearing that, Coach. Obviously, as an offensive line coach, I love hearing just coaches or coordinators or whoever talk about, hey, it's got to keep it simple for the guys up front. And at the end of the day, we want it to be as easy as possible because we want to make the quarterback's job easy, right? We want him to be upright and throwing the ball and giving good reads on RPOs and replays and hand the ball off. So, yeah, if he can do his job, we can do ours, and everything is great. Before we get into the clinic, Coach, we'll do that next. How many schemes are y'all running? And I'm talking about just core install, like day one stuff. Like, hey, this camp install, like what are we running on in the run game, and then what are like some basic stuff. I'm sure we'll see it in the clinic, but just before we get to that.
Yeah, so my offensive line coach that we have here at Saugus is a guy named Tyler Steinman. He's a good personal friend. His dad was a legendary coach here in the Valley for a long time, offensive line as well. And so we kind of always have the discussion of like, we don't want to load those kids down, right, with too many schemes.
Yeah.
We got into spring this year and, we had these grand ideas of, hey, we're going to run crack toss. We're going to run tackle pull dart, right? We're going to run counter, GT counter as well as GY counter. We're going to run inside zone. We're going to run mid zone, and we're going to try to run buck sweep. And so I obviously ran out of fingers on one hand counting all those schemes.
Yeah.
And we kind of came to the decision of like, hey, we're going to put in 2 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the kids start getting confused about like, oh, wait, I was supposed to do this or I was supposed to do that, then we know like, hey, we've kind of hit our level here.
Yeah.
And so we really started going into the spring trying to run those 6, and we got to about 5. And buck sweep was the last one. And obviously buck sweep's kind of involved as far as understanding, who's pulling and who's staying and such. And so we just backed off. We just said, hey, you know what? We're going to go to 4. We're going to go to 4, and then we're going to tag stuff off of those concepts to create other run concepts. Because at the end of the year, we were running trap. But we were tagging it in such a way that the kids didn't think they were running another play. They just thought they were running GT counter. And then we added a tag onto the GT counter call to tell the backside tackle that he was just going to gap hinge the B to C gap. Mm-hmm. So it was only going to be the guard pulling and kicking out. So that was kind of a way we like backdoored into running a 5th and 6th concept, that we just took core concepts and then kind of tagged it with some key words that the kids already knew.
I love that, man. Well, I always use the term same as, like, hey, we got these 4 run plays, and now I'm gonna get as many variations as I can. And I love how you said, once they start to get confused or try to overlap plays, and it's like, no, we're getting confused here, we'll back off. And that goes into, the maturity, the football maturity of your kids. Like, you have a senior heavy group, been playing together for 3 years, you might be able to go more, right? If you got some sophomores, you might have to run 2 schemes, right, and be good at that. So, yeah, I definitely love that perspective. Coach, you want to go ahead and click on sharing your screen and have that come up and go to huddle, and I'm gonna do a little bit of commercial while you do that. Guys, I appreciate everybody for watching us in this so far. If you're ready for the clinic, make sure you go ahead and hit a thumbs up and subscribe and leave us a comment as well. And I just do want to do a shout out to Coaching Share. They make sure that we can do everything that we do here on the channel for free. So I do appreciate Coaching Share. And then First Down Playbook, they do a great job of supplying us with a database to do all of our diagrams here on the channel. So check out First Down Playbook. And then Dome Hats. Got the hat on right now, Block Somebody Football Company. I appreciate Dome Hats. I finally can show all the hats they have sent me. So I appreciate all of Dome Hats. Try to wear them as much as I can because they're really good stuff. But Coach, I have your presentation up. I'm going to go ahead and back out You got it, Coach. Appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate it, Coach. You let me know when you got to cut me off, by the way. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking here.
Hey, you got it. We as long as you need.
Okay. All right. So there's my contact information, by the way. Email there, smaxwell@heartdistrict.org. There's the Twitter. I will not call it X. It will forever be Twitter to me, but there's my coaching information there if you want to connect on there as well. All right. So background, right? We talked about 12 years of coaching experience. I've been at the small private school, about 350 kids. That was my first stop, as well as kind of where I played, was about that enrollment. Now we're at the public school of Saugus here in California. We're about 2,400. We've got about 160 to 180 kids in the program. 8 years on offense, 4 on defense. I just put that. Again, there was that kind of half year where I was both. But like I said, when I was at my previous stop, I literally had to coach every single position group. And it really forced me to understand, right, football holistically. Those are two of my kids. I just want to put them there because, right, like I think a lot of people have different reasons for coaching. I know that when I was a player, I had a very special relationship with my position coach and some of my coaches that really helped me through tough times. And those two kids were super important in helping me through some tough times. And so, those are the reasons that you do this. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of my former players, but especially these two young men. So coaching influences. So my head coach, like I mentioned, Jeff Cortez, Scott Hurst was the first guy that hired me and gave me a shot. And then now I'm under Jason Bourne. Kind of what we talked about, wing T influence. So I really believe in like series of plays, things that are kind of like, okay, if this guy does this, then we call that. I'm a big believer in motions. I mean, we could all sit here and be like, oh, well, the motion doesn't affect me. Well, yeah, you're a X number of year old coach with a bunch of experience, but little Johnny Friday night, when he sees that guy go in motion, he doesn't know if he needs to bump or his eyes go that way, and then he gets hit going back the other way. Some same pre-snap presentations, again, kind of bleeds into that wing T influence. And then here's just a list of guys that I put here as far as like if you're trying to grow as a coach, these are guys that influence me a lot. Will Stein, just making the quarterback's life easier, as well as some of the RPO game. Now the head coach in Kentucky, was at Oregon, also was a high school coach in Texas, which to me is a big deal because, those guys understand what it's like to coach our age group. Gus Malzahn, as far as adding schemes and running gap schemes. Tyler Schneider from Bixby. If you haven't dove into like their kind of scheme and what they do and how crazy it is, love their tempo ideas. Mac Leftwich, who's at Texas Tech right now, so running the GT counter with RPOs. And then Josh Heupel is really a big influence as far as what you guys are going to see here, as far as the wide split stack stuff, really emptying the box and putting those guys that are in the, those outside backers that are in conflict and really making them choose one and not being able to play one or the other. And then obviously Steve Sarkisian for motions and screens. But all right, let's dive into this because you're here to understand why and how this might help your kids in your program. So to me, stacks and bunches are great because one, DB placement is somewhat predictable, right? And I talked about as far as having success on Friday night, I want to show my kids, hey, this is the situation you might be in. How are we going to solve it? Okay. Most people really only have one answer for bunches and stacks, and they might have one zone answer, one man answer. Obviously, again, depending on your level, right? If you're at the higher levels of high school football, yeah, you might get two. But again, this is stuff that not a lot of people do, which again, I think is, again, some of my wing T background, right? You get teams that come up against the wing T, they don't know how to defend it, and they're a hot mess. There's some teams that don't understand how to defend stacks and bunches just because of how unique it is. We were blessed to have some great players here at Saugus over the years, but we haven't put a lot of kids into college just because we haven't had that crazy athleticism. And so when we come up against teams that were more athletic, like we have in our league, we needed to find ways to get those receivers open and down the field and not getting held up at the line of scrimmage. So creating free releases for those guys was important. Like I talked about, seeing the offense through the lens of the O-line and quarterback, equating box numbers with RPO and creating winnable situations for those guys is something that this allows for. And then good angles and outflanking the defense. Okay. I just want to make sure that I go through this really quickly. So understanding kind of some of my conceptual thinking. Again, this is California hashes. So really 53 and a third width, we all know that, but we're able to split the field up into thirds here with the hashes. Okay. And so what I want to do with our offense with this is I want to be able to play and threaten the defense on all three. And so you can see with some of these markers, right, we've got 6 yards from the bottom of the numbers to the sideline, and we've got 9 yards from the top of the numbers to the sideline. So that's going to be important when I start getting into stretching the defense. But we'll keep it moving here, and we'll get to some of the formations. So, right, we call 2x2, and we denote where the tight end's going to go by the direction. So Dubs left. And so if we wanted to get into a stack, we'd just say Dubs left stack. Okay, and those guys know to tighten down. You will see on some of the film that we flip the alignment and we put the H here and we put the X here. Those guys just kind of know by the scheme that's called if they need to flip. Also, our H is our big time dude. So because of some of the schemes that we run, we want to make him the first read. And so that's where we put him. Okay, kind of what I talked about earlier as far as putting kids in positions that they are going to be able to identify and then execute. I put this on here just so you can start to understand, like when I get a stack, these are some of the looks that I might get. So if I'm cover 4, right, and I've obviously got to account for these two guys running vertical, I'm going to get a corner off and outside. I'm going to get a safety deep and inside, and I'm probably going to get a backer playing in that apex position, right, trying to play in the run fit, but also trying to get or wall number 2 if he tries to come inside, or get out underneath number 1, right? Cover 3, I'm going to probably see something very similar. I'm going to get corner off and outside, backer tucked in, right? Again, run. He's got a run threat, and he's got to fit in some sort of the gap. Obviously, if they're stunned the end outside, if he's a B gap player, depending if it's a 3 technique or a 1 technique or any of those things, right? And then you've got a safety in the deep middle. And then if you get cover 2, again, you're going to have a corner outside. Maybe he's not as off as before. Maybe he's only at 3 yards, 4 yards, as opposed to 6 or 7, but he's still going to be outside. You're still going to have a backer inside, and you're going to have a safety, maybe, 12 to 14. Maybe he won't be on the hash like he was in cover 3. Maybe he's not as wide as he would be in cover 4, but he is going to be deep and inside. So again, there's a lot of similarities as far as whether they play different coverages, right, where these guys might be orientated. Again, getting into some of the man answers, because you'll see that on the film, right? A lot of the common ones is, okay, I'm going to press this guy, and one guy's going to play off, but the press guy is going to take the back guy, right? A lot of people call that top hat. And then you've got cat, which is just like, I've just got the dude that's on the point. I'm going to lock him. Back guy is going to take the back guy, right? So those are a couple of different scenarios that you might encounter. Okay, real quick. So we've got our 2 guys out here, and we've got our 2 guys here. We generally talk about, if we're on the hash, okay, we want to put our 2 guys to the boundary off of the numbers. So let's just draw these. We've got the Y and we've got the Z. So they've got basically 6 yards to work with the sideline. So we're, again, really trying to put some sort of apex player in conflict. To the field, we want to put the outside guy just on the shade of the hash. And then when we get into some of the downfield concepts, right, those guys are really going to move around, whether they're tightening down to what we call the X, which is the dead center of the field, or to the hash, okay? But again, we want to stretch the defense here. So just so I can make sure everyone understands what I'm talking about pre and post snap, because we've got the back here, okay, we're going to post snap read the apex defender here, whether that's a safety that's dropped down, an outside backer in space that's trying to play run pass, okay? Away from the back, we've got the pre-snap read, okay? So we've got pre, okay, and then we've got the post over here. So pre-snap, because of these 2 guys' horizontal width, right, this pre-snap player really has to decide, hey, am I going to drop out underneath these guys? Am I going to be 3/2, or am I going to get hands on 2 as 2 runs up the seam, right? Or am I going to play tight because I'm a blitzer and because I'm in the run fit? Okay. So that's what the quarterback's accounting for pre-snap, right? He's got to use his peripheral vision, see that out of the corner of his eye and go, okay, that guy's tight. So I'm going to catch and throw it out there real quick. Okay. Now, if this guy was just wide and he's, able to account for those 2 receivers and he can't fold in to the run concept here, then cool. He's just going to be out there. Now our eyes go to the post-snap player. Hey, is anyone taking away my quick screen that's out here? Okay. If that guy folds in again and equates our numbers and we get a negative number count in the box, then we're going to throw it out there. Okay. So just so we all understand like my verbiage and kind of what you're seeing on the huddle, we call the now screens to our X is Exxon and to our Z is Zorro. So I'm going to be saying Exxon Zorro. Those are just the now screens. Okay. And then you can attach whatever 5-man run concept you want. For us, we're, again, going back to my gap scheme days, we're a counter team, a GT counter team. We like the down angles. We like the kick. Our back this year saw gap schemes a lot better than inside zone. You'll see some inside zone here because against different fronts, we wanted to protect the quarterback and read a backer instead of an end, but that's what we've got so far. So again, we've got a pre-snap read and we've got a post-snap read. Okay. So I'll start diving in here. But so we've got the counter going to the left, right? And he sees, hey, this backer is basically 3-4 yards outside the tackle. He looks like, again, body indication, like he's going to blitz. They've only got 1 defender out here for 2, right? So point guy's going to block. Back guy's going to step back on the now screen, the Exxon, and he's going to flick that thing out there. Right? We get 1 block, we get vertical, and we fumble it, but we jump on it and we end up scoring. Okay. Again, from the angle here, you can see there's no fake, right? He knows that he doesn't need to put the ball in the belly of the back to get this guy to bite. He knows he's already got the numbers advantage, so he's going to spit it out. Same thing here. I apologize. We don't see the stack up here, but there's 2 of our players up there, and they're rolling into some sort of a 3 down, but they're bringing the outside backers. We call this like a pinch blitz. So we've got 5 coming here, and yet they roll down the safety to the side of the back, right? Because they probably thought we were going to post-snap read this. But again, our quarterback is able to see, hey, on my pre-snap side, this guy's threatening to blitz, right? So our point guy is going to block. Our back guy is going to step back on the now screen, right? And we're just going to put it out there. We get 1 block, and we get an easy 6 yards on first down in the red zone. Another example of this, and again, I'm going to show you a lot of different fronts and coverages just so you guys understand, like, the reason I believe so much in this is that I think it's an all-weather play. I think it works versus a bunch of different fronts, a bunch of different defenses, a bunch of different coverage structures. And again, you can attach whatever run you want. This play you're going to see is tackle pull versus a 3 down front with 5 techniques that are squeezing hard to the B gap. And we're running tackle pull, and you could run inside zone. Missouri with Eli Drinkowitz for a long time ran mid zone with RPOing off the backside. And so you could run that, but for us, right, we just enjoyed this scheme versus this kind of front. And we're doing it from the pistol here because, again, our stacks are threatening these 2 outside linebackers that are trying to be 3/2 in the pass game, but then also trying to commit to the run. Okay. So from
Coach,
the pistol,
got a question real quick.
Yeah. What's up?
So do you automatically is it automatically on your runs the Exxon and Zorro, or are you signaling that?
No, we're gonna attach it.
Okay.
Yeah. So our play structure is, again, very similar to a lot of people probably, where we're gonna go formation, adjustment, motion, play, and then tags, and then snap
Gotcha.
count.
Gotcha.
So this one would be Dubs right stack 35 X on Zorro.
Gotcha.
So we give the formation, right, where one needs to line up, the tag of stacking, 35 being the direction, right, odd number left, and then X on Zorro is letting those guys know that they've got the X on Zorro now screen. If we didn't tag X on Zorro, those guys know that they need to go block their players.
Gotcha. Love it.
So again, we wanted to do this with the pistol because we wanted those outside backers not to know pre-snap who's in the run fit, who's out of the run fit. And so this allowed us to be a little bit more deceptive. As you can see, right, as soon as that backer commits off the edge, right, we know we're in a basically one-on-one blocking scenario, and this guy catching the ball understands, hey, my pursuit's coming from inside out, right? And I've got a safety coming from basically 12 to 14, and I'm going to use my block, and I'm going to find hash number sideline, hopefully, right, and get vertical. And again, that's 10 yards, and I get it. Like, this isn't a 40-yard play, but I always told our kids, hey, man, how many yards did we get? How many guys did we block? Oh, yeah, we blocked one corner, and we got 10 yards. Okay. And this is a damn good team with great coaching and great players. Again, we got a little bit of a 4-4 look. This is a 4-3 team rolled down to cover 3, trying to take away some of this, right? Put 6 in the box and then put 2 guys out there in space to try to take away some of this. I will say that, again, I'm a stickler for the details. This Y here should be off the numbers, and then the Z should be just slightly outside him to really make sure that we're stretching this kid. But again, we've got our pre-snap, right? And we've got our post-snap player. Quarterback, right? Pre-snap, that kid's out there in space, taking away. Okay, so post-snap, I see outside backers start to commit. Boom, spit the ball out right there. I'd like to just point out that kid's on the bottom of the numbers, okay? My receiver's got the ball, and he's got 6 yards of horizontal distance to work with. And obviously we're blocking the corner here. Now it's literally just, hey, dude, catch and get vertical, right? We talk about using the inside hand as a weapon, right? Put the ball on the outside. Boom, the stiff arm goes out, right? Don't need it. We get a good block on the corner, driving to the sideline. We get vertical. We get 20 yards. Again, we blocked one guy. Now, of course, I'm saying we blocked one guy because we threw the ball out there. Right. Obviously, you got to block more if you hand it off. But again, that gives those kids on the edge some ownership as far as understanding, hey, man, I can create a big play for my team if I just do my one job. This team here, we're going a little tempo. This was one of our one-word calls, was lining up and running our GT counter with X on Zorro tagged. So we just attached a one-word name and signal to it, and so we could tempo. This team is in our in the league. They are big, they are fast, they are physical, they are a problem. And so we knew that if we went fast, we might cause some communication issues. So that's why this kid's running over here late. So, right, quarterback, post-snap read, hey, that kid's not wide enough to take away this screen. Boom, get it out, block one guy, he trips up 2, get vertical, get 11. Same sort of deal here, right? Bringing inside pressure. That pre-snap player is wide enough, right, to make it a 2-on-2 scenario. So we don't have numbers advantage to the pre-snap side. So he starts to look post-snap. Okay, I see one, and then I've got this kid. Okay, well, he ain't wide enough to take away this, and he commits. Boom, pull the ball. Again, catch and get vertical, 7 yards. Okay, and I get it. But I think if we would all say, hey, do you want to average 7 yards on every single offensive snap? I think you'd take it. Okay, different kind of look here, right? So now we're getting a 4-2 box, okay? But now we're getting 2 guys rolled down on each side. So technically in our math, this guy's about 7. That's up to the quarterback's discretion if he's tight enough in order to not be in the number count. But let's just say we're 2-on-2 on both sides. Okay, we're 2-on-2. We're 6 for 5, so that means the quarterback's got to hold one kid. And we knew going into this week that this kid was wide, and he was the best player on their defense. But we knew that he lined up so wide that he would never be able to chase down the back. And so we just knew, hey, we're technically 5 for 5 in the run game. let our back get downhill. Obviously, it's nice when you have good players that can make something happen when they get their opportunity. Same sort of deal here, 4-3, right? And this is the kind of look we're used to, right? 3/2. This kid was an absolute problem, so we knew that most likely pre-snap we weren't going to get to that side. By the way, if you're like, why the hell is the ball outside the hash? This is a college field, and the refs thought they could accurately spot it, and they obviously were wrong. But again, right, we're looking for who's the second guy that can take away our advantage to the bench here and be the second guy. So quarterback sees him commit slightly, right? Our point guy, his rule is always MDM, right? Most dangerous man, whoever that might be, to my screen guy. So he sees backer go inside, right? You can see his eyes start to shift outside. Boom, block him out. Get vertical, get 12. Same sort of look here. So now we're 3/2 to the pre-snap side. Not advantageous for us. We're 2 versus 2 to the post-snap side. Not a good look for us. Okay, so we're a 5-man box here. 4 down, 1 inside, and we get run down from the backside. So I didn't just put on clinic tape, so it was every good scenario here. What I put this on here for is, right, that's who the quarterback's got to hold if it's going to be GT counter with the center blocking back here on the 3, right? A little bit later on, you're going to see us run inside zone, and we lock this, right? And so we get 5 for 5 in the run game. Again, you have to have the scheme that matches the similar one box you're going to see, but also quarterback capabilities. We don't have a running quarterback in our program, really. And so we have to change some of our rules and our schemes to make sure that we're still threatening the defense. But as you can see, 9 tries to hold him, and that dude's just not even buying it. Like, our kid was not going to pull the ball, but we're trying to make him believe that. Same sort of deal here, 4-3 box, right? We're looking out here like, okay, these kids are kind of half in between. So I'm just going to read it out. I think we probably could have pulled and threw the ball out here. I think he committed enough, and I think we have enough space. But again, this kid was defensive player of the year for the league, and so he runs it down from the backside. But we got to find some way to hold that backside end. If you don't have, again, a running quarterback and you're going to run GT counter, right? Maybe you turn this into, like I said, trap, where this kid, holds the end, he blocks back, he goes straight to backer, and you kick. Or maybe, like we talked about earlier, go inside zone lock. 4-2-5 nickel set to the field. Again, because we're balanced and they're not, right? They're going to put an extra defender to what they deem the passing strength. Again, this is just like stealing. You're saying that your second defender is inside the box and you've only got one kid at 6 yards. I mean, it's about as easy as it gets, man. Block one guy, get vertical. Now you get one-on-one with the safety, right? That's 6 yards. It's nothing super sexy. We're probably giving that kid crap for getting tackled by the first guy, but we're putting those guys in hard positions because whether or not we like to admit it, right? Open field tackling is one of the hardest skills in the game of football. And so we're just trying to put our athletes in those one-on-one scenarios as often as possible. Now, we like it when it's 1 versus 0 and just a lot of open grass, but if you give me one-on-one, I'll take it all day. Again, another scenario, I think we probably could have thrown it to the post-snap side. I think this kid comes in, but again, we hand it off. We get downhill. All right, so one of the things that we're going to progress to here in just a minute is what happens when you add motion. All right, I talked about the wing tee background and adding motion, being able to change and get into advantageous positions with that. And so right now you're seeing, okay, well, we've got a stack down here, and then we've got wide split out here to the field. But we're going to motion the X down, and so we're going to, use a tag to motion him in there, and we're going to get to a stack. Does that change how the corner plays? Does that, change how that outside backer plays? I'll be honest, their game plan here, this is our stud, and they were going to double, and they were going to make sure that the backer to his side never blitzed. As you can see, they blitzed the backer opposite. So And this is a scenario where we're not running counter to the field, right? We're now running counter to the boundary. So really, you could say that my quarterback should have seen this kid with his blitz posture pre-snap and this post-snap, right? That kid's not biting. So this is a bad read by our quarterback. But that motion is important because you're going to see in some of our downfield passing how it becomes something that we use to our advantage. Again, right? We're 2 for 2, technically 3 for 2. They're 2 for 2, technically 3 for 2 over the top. And so they've got a 5-man box, and we like those numbers. So we hand it off. Obviously, they wrong arm. We still get vertical, and we get 7. Again, one-word play. They're trying to sub. Kids are running in. He's trying to get the call. And again, this is where I think a lot of the gap scheme comes into play as far as being an advantage for you and your kids because, right, if you're teaching it a certain way, they just know their rules, right? Whether it's gap down backer or gap hinge, right? Whatever your rules and verbiage is, they have rules that they follow as opposed to, right, if you're running inside zone and you have a count system and there's not lined up, that could actually screw you up. So again, now we flip the back and we're running counter to the boundary. So again, post snap, that kid comes in just a step. We feel like that's enough. Get 1 block, get vertical, get 7. Okay. You're probably like, damn, coach, you just showed like 35 clips of the same play. I get it, but it was our most productive play. It was something that put defenses in a bind. And again, I showed you all different kinds of structures and coverage structures. And really it was the same formula for our kids. And it allowed us to understand, hey, this is our bread and butter. This is what we're going to go to. This is how we know what to do in every scenario. And it was a huge positive for us. So what's something that you could do that's slightly different, but some from the same presentation? Okay. So again, we've got a stack to the boundary. You easily could go double stack to the field. We just didn't in this particular call. We felt like we could kind of dictate what they were going to do coverage wise if we went split, wide splits to the field. But so we start out here, and instead of putting the Y on the ball and the Z off, we actually flipped it. So we put the Z on the ball, we put the Y off, and we gave them a tag to motion in. And now we're going to run GY counter again, because we didn't have a quarterback who could hold the backside end. So we're going to lock the tackle on the backside end, right? We're going to go gap down backer rules. We're going to pull kick. And this guy running in motion now gets to lead up in the hole. This was like one of my favorite kids as far as like just being a classic football player. He just wanted to smash people. And so now we got him a running head start to go smash the kid. Got a pancake on there too. I don't know if we'll play it back just for him. But yeah, running head start into being able to kick out there up on the second level and just absolutely thrashes the kid. From the back angle, again, one of the things that I love about this is that, we are motioning a kid, but we're only motioning him into the box. So it's taking about 1.5 seconds or so. It's not enough time for those guys to recognize a certain set. Boom, downhill. So again, I know everyone likes to steal stuff from the highest level, and obviously these guys get paid to coordinate and design these X's and O's. And so here's an example of Detroit running something similar. The only difference is instead of them running counter to the field, they're actually going to run it here where the tight end retraces and leads up into the hole. But again, as far as the same pre-snap presentation, right there, you could say, hey, you're going to run inside zone or counter with X on Zorro attached to it. And you can see they've got the X on screen out there, but they're 2 for 2, so he doesn't hand it off. All right, so I did promise some inside zone clips, so here we are. So we've got a 4 down. We knew that this defensive end was quick enough to chase down the back, and obviously because our quarterback was not a run threat, that we would allow him and not be able to hold him accountable. And really, obviously, this kid could pull the ball, but we only had one quarterback on varsity, and this kid was really freaking good. An all offensive player of the league, all CIF, all state nominee kind of kid. So we wanted to keep him a glass box and not let him get touched at all. And so we're going inside zone here. Again, they've kind of got a 4-4 cover 3 look. That outside backer squeezes just a step, right? And again, like I said, we've got 6 yards here, and he's probably about halfway, right? And so we've really got a whole lot of room to work with, and we're 1-for-1 with our tight end on a corner. And so we're just going to cut and get vertical and get 11. So here's the back clip. I will say, right, left tackle doesn't do a phenomenal job. He kind of whiffs here, but again, we're inside zone to the mic on the front side, and then we're locked on the back side. So this 3 technique, right, if he was a 1, we would just run it inside zone. So we've got the backside inside backer unaccounted for, and then that backside outside backer is who we're reading. Same team, similar look, right? 4-4 cover 3 look. So now this outside backer darts out on the Exxon Zorro screen. And so really we're left with a 5-man box because this kid's the 6th defender, but he's too far pushed out. And then the drop down safety, right? Him in the corner are playing 2-for-2 to the field. Obviously, good cut, right? Gets vertical, gets what he can. Okay, so what happens when defense, right, starts trying to take away your Exxon Zorro? Well, I'll just tell you, when you get 2 guys standing at the same level, this should be one of the first plays you call. So we're going to actually now bluff and get up the sideline. And again, we're still running the Exxon hero here. My big, brute of a tight end didn't get the fact that we're running this, and so he just kind of blocks, but we were trying to target this kid anyways. He was our stud. And so again, I say anytime you get 2 kids on the same level, it's going to be the classic, oh, you should have covered him sort of deal. Right, we talked about earlier, like one guy presses, one guy's off. I think that's your best plan for this, but they're at the same level. Both eyes go back in the backfield, right? They both try to jump the Exxon Zorro. They've been getting killed on all night. Boom, there's a touchdown. Okay. Again, now what happens if you play man and they play one kid up and they play one kid back and they are disciplined? Well, then you do something like this, which we call Exxon Zorro and go. So again, the top guy bluffs like he's going to block, and then he runs like a seam, and then the guy that steps back on the now screen then goes up the sideline. And if you think about it conceptually, it's really like a post wheel combination. So even if you are getting a cover 3 zone kind of look, right, that post, right, by the top guy who's bluffing and then going inside to the seam, which is like kind of like your post route, would take the corner, and then your now screen ends up going a delay and then go. He kind of ends up being like a wheel. Again, so this is week 10. We're playing that school that's got a bunch of freaks. This is for playoffs. If we win, we're in. If they win, they're in. And so it's 4th and 3. It's late in the game. We've been hurting them on Exxon Zorro, and we dial up a different sort of play here. I will not tell you what the play is called. The kids come up with it, and it is always based on an attractive female. And I will not give away state secrets in case we end up running this next year. But again, throw it to the Exxon real quick, right? Everyone comes diving in. We get our great slot receiver, who is a great open field blocker because he was just reckless with his body. He gets hands on. We toss it to our big time back. He runs a kid over. We get inside the 10. We end up getting down there, and we run Philly special and score and go to the playoffs. So because of the stack, right, a lot of people are afraid to press you. And you'll see that in some of the passing concepts we get to here in just a couple plays. But a lot of people are afraid to press. And again, we're running here a wide receiver jailbreak screen. And so because of that, right, if anyone knows, one of the hardest blocks is getting your big boy out here to the alley. And so, right, we're going to MDM, we're going to push, kick, we're going to pass set, we're going to try to take the alley, we're going to pass set, we're going to log the inside backer, Center is going to wrap around the log for the next most dangerous. Backside guard is going to rat kill, and then we're locked as far as the tackle. And then these guys are faking some sort of like snag combination on the backside. Obviously, you can see we're push motioning the back here. I hate the jumping thing, but the kids love it. So, but again, because we're not getting that stack, or because we're getting the stack and they don't want to press, we're buying time for, again, the hardest block, which I feel like is that tackle getting out to blocking a kid in space. And again, I talked about it. I'm always looking at it through the lens of the offensive line. What can I do to make the offensive line's life easy and accomplishable? And so I just feel like doing some of this allows that. Again, this is that big freaky school. Do the same thing, right? So we're push cracking, we're kick dragging, most dangerous, kick and drag, log, center, kick and drag, next most dangerous, kick and drag, and we're rat killing, and we're locked on the backside. Nice job by the offensive tackle going flat here on the kick out, right? Meets him where he's going to be, not where he was. We do a great job. Just miss a little bit there. Sustain our block, but, we're still getting an explosive there. And anytime we can get an explosive, a good time. Okay. This is, again, a pass play. So we just obviously watched a ton of like RPO inside, basically A-gap to A-gap kind of runs. What can you do off of the stack? Well, I showed you the screen, showed you the hook and ladder. Now we're getting into something a little different. So this is a play, right, that a lot of people run. I would imagine every college and NFL team runs this, what we call mesh rail. Okay. So I'm drawing it up from what it looks like from a 2x2 wide split. Obviously the two guys to the boundary are somewhat tight. But I just wanted to show you guys the concept and then how we run it from the tight. So we'll let this run, but we're going right rail to the under to the OTB, boom, OTB, get vertical, right, 10 yards. Okay. Now what happens? So I get it. I'm showing you 7-on-7 film. I will show you real football being played, but I think this is a good example of what happens when, right, you play tight man-to-man. Well, they're trying to press the stacks, okay, right? So that press guy is taking the point man. They're going to banjo the back, right, and he's playing middle. So we could have just lined up in wide split and put, the under and then put the out, but we're not creating an advantage and a free release for our kids. So we put the under here on the outside and we're making this kid run the out. Well, that means that corner who's man-to-man here has now got to run through this out route with his buddy, right, blocking him, and he's got to be in a trail position and make a play on a kid running away from him across the field. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Right? I mean, look at that kid. He's got to run through that out route, right? He's got to run through an under. He's got to run through an OTB. Like, it ain't happening. Okay, so here it is happening in a game. Okay, so corner condenses and they drop out. They're playing zone. We thought we were going to get, pressure cover one sort of deal. We didn't. But again, it's an all-weather play. It's good versus anything, right? They take the back. The guy's following our best player on the under, and so we hit the OTB, sitting in the zone. Again, catch, get vertical, get 16. All right. So now we're getting into some of the fun stuff, some of the big-time play stuff. So we've got what we call Washington, which is basically for everybody, right, we're running mills, right? We're running posts. We've got the dig. And then whatever two-man combination you believe is going to be advantageous for you on the backside. We're running corner. We're running shallow. We're play faking. We're checking for protection, and then we're getting out. I just feel like the shallow with the back coming across is a good way to, mix up these backers, and especially if they have any sort of push rules where they've got to, push to that side. It just forces communication. And again, right, I'm trying to make their life hard through motions, through same as principles, and if I can make them have to communicate even better. I did talk about on the front side, it's basically mills of post dig. What you're going to kind of see is because our quarterback and our kids enjoyed running more vertical, you're going to kind of see of a cross route instead okay, instead of an actual true dig. So what's going to happen is our point guy, and this is our big time stud, he's going to run the big post. So we're going to push, get vertical to about 12 to 14, step on that kid's toes, outside shoulder, and then we're just running to space. The cross, we're going to come in and then basically run like a Y cross route. Backside, we're running corner. You are trying to take 2 for 1. You're trying to track both these guys to you. Again, we've got the under. We're telling him to run at the heels of the defensive line, get no deeper than 3. Don't look until you get to the offensive tackle on the other side. And then, like I talked about, we're play faking. We're checking the protection, and then we're getting out to the flat. So this is a cover 4 look, right? So those guys, again, the corner and the safety have to account for the switch, right? Safety gets a ton of depth. Outside backer doesn't get hands on the cross. So boom, we hit them there, right? Chunk play. Okay, now what happens when we motion them? So right here, right, we're getting some sort of cover 6 look. So we've got 4 on this side and looks like 2 on this side because of how he's positioned. So he's all ready, right? He's probably thinking, man, I can't let this kid outside. I got to protect my safety. I'm going to force him inside. I'm going to funnel. I'm going to drop unless I get a thread in the flat. And then all of a sudden we go, psych, right? You got to motion in. And so he motions in. I mean, look, he's like probably 4 yards width from now the new number 1. And he also happens to be at 5 yards. So, and like I said, that was our best kid in the slot, our fastest kid, and we make him the first read on this. So get vertical, push, safety's flat-footed, and so we're going over the top. And so I'm going to back up because I just realized I didn't do a very good job of teaching what we're doing as far as from the quarterback perspective. We're going top down. So we're reading the deep defender to then the flat defender, okay? So we're going, right, does he get depth? And does he take away the big post? If he does, right, we're thinking here. If for some reason, right, we get hands on and he gets into that window, then we're thinking that shallow coming back across, right? So we're really going top down here. And to be honest, that corner route's a man alert on the backside, and the back is if the kid starts to scramble and we check it down to him while we're scrambling. But quarterback, and we are a dubmatics, like rhythm, read, rush, timing. And so quarterback, again, is reading that safety's demeanor. He sees, hey, hips are square, right? He's got depth for that big post, but his hips are not in a place where he can actually run and make a play on it, and he's driving, and so I'm letting this thing go over the top. And by the way, this is a team, those 2 clips, including this, is a team that won the CIF Division II semifinal or CIF Division II final the year before. So this is not, some lackluster bums. Same thing here, short motion, right? Create a new 1 and 2. Safety drives down on 2 on that crosser, right? Corner's taught to probably play over top of 1, but because of that motion, we create that extra horizontal space, and then we just basically run away from them. Nice ball, putting it over the safety's head there. So clip kind of starts late, but short motion in. Again, if you looked at it pre-snap, this kid's at 7-8 yards, okay, of cushion. And yet, we push on him. I mean, he's still ahead of us when we're at 11 yards. He's at 15. But we're just running to that open space because that safety's driving down on that crash, right? Basically what, again, people would assume is a dig, like it's a Mills concept. So here it is in real football. Corner's a little lackadaisical moving in, and he goes, oh, shoot, I got to cover their fastest kid, right? They're all CIF receiver, and he's a little late. Lucky for the defender, this thing's underthrown, right? And he makes the tackle, but it's still a gain of 41 for us. So here it is. This is that big freaky school with a bunch of athletes. So we knew that their safeties, 1, could play. They had some players back there, man. And so obviously if you just line up in 2x2, this kid's going to get matched up on the safety. These kids are good players and they got a lot of depth. Well, how am I going to put my best kid on maybe a kid that's in a worse situation and a worse athlete? Well, bring him in, switch, release him, right? And so that's what we end up doing, right? Corner moves in. So he's at 4 yards, and look at him. he ain't moving back at the snap, right? He's moving horizontally. Man, if I had to run 100-meter dash, I wouldn't want to be moving sideways. I want to be moving forward towards my goal, right? And so he moves in and then goes, oh, shoot, that kid's running right past me, right? Safety drives down on 2. His hips are square, right? He's not able to help out on this post of 1. And obviously you can see our kid's already ahead of their kid. Again, has to wait for the ball, but it's a gain of 49. Now we're in the red zone. And I just want to show you, like, so what we're doing here on the front side is we're basically sliding. And then, like I said, we're checking inside to outside. So in this scenario, right, we're here, we're locked, and then he's going, right, A gap, right, first threat, and then he's going C gap, second threat. That's what we're doing protection-wise. And then he gets out. But all right, so obviously you saw us throwing the ball down the field. I do want to put on here, right, here's an example of us getting to the shallow. Again, this is game 10. We'd probably call this play 70 times up until this point, and we had never thrown the shallow, right? So kids start getting into, right, oh, I'm never going to get the ball. Why should I run across? Okay, big time play here, right? Check it down out of pressure, catch, get vertical, right? And that just became a great driving home point because then, again, the next week, right, we're in the first round of the playoffs. It's 4th and 10. We haven't done anything on offense to this point, and we're driving down before the half. And, right, they all drop out because they know we're going to chuck it deep to our 2 kids on the deep posts. And then our shallow route, just the week before, made that huge play. Right, we drove it home all week. Run the shallow, run the shallow. You're going to get the ball, right? Catches it, gets vertical. We get a shot at getting some points before the half, getting some momentum, and then end up winning that game. So again, this is that later on, that same game, that same opponent. We come back to it, and you can see, right? I mean, their corner and their safety, they got some depth, man. But when you do this over and over and over and you have belief in it, the kids have belief in it and they know what to expect, right? My quarterback goes, hey, that kid hasn't opened his hips up, right, at safety, right? He's still in a pedal. And yeah, he's got a lot of depth, but he hasn't opened up yet. So he gets it deep, boom, right over his top, okay? Momentum, end up winning that game and going on to the quarters. Okay, I told you I wasn't going to just put on clinic tape and show you all the great plays that we made. Here's one that's bad. So as far as positioning, we always talk about we want the stack to be on the hash. On this side, we talked about in the RPO game, we want him off the numbers. Well, in this one, we need him a little tighter. Why? Because we need the shallow to come across and to threaten the inside backer as they're working that push, right? And we're creating that kind of triangle here, right? That triangle for those backers. And so this is an example of, this is really a bad example of positioning, okay? So, right, corner gets depth, safety gets depth. We're starting to work into the middle of the field, which is great, but the backer is actually sinking in that lane, that passing lane. And so because we haven't gotten here across, we haven't threatened him, right? We haven't put that kid in conflict. So we got to pull the ball down and get vertical. Same sort of thing here, right? They let that crosser go completely because of the switch, right? That backer is like, oh, I'm going to get hands on this kid. Oh, wait, he just ran away from me. I'm supposed to get hands on this kid coming in. It doesn't happen. And so we've got a lane here. Ball gets batted, but again, kind of showing you why we're doing those things. Here's the back angle. You can kind of see the passing lane where we're talking about. Right, there's that passing lane. And obviously, if that kid had gotten more depth or gotten more width, then we'd have to check it down to the shallow route there, running across his face. Coach, I did want to take a pause. Any questions or anything I can go over that concept better for the audience?
Oh no, I think you did a great job, Coach. I'm not gonna lie to you. A buddy of mine, great, because he has his own YouTube channel. Coach Johnson, most people know him from the channel. I literally texted him. I was like, "Cannot wait for this to come out because you are balling right now, Coach." I drew it up. I love it. But yeah, this is great. Keep rolling.
Okay. So we talked about kind of the fastball, right? The fastball is basically your best pitch, and that's that double post concept that we just detailed. So this is the changeup, right? You got to have some sort of changeup to what your best pitch is. Otherwise, they can just take your best pitch away, right? And then you're left with nothing. And that's, we owe it to our kids a plan for if they take away option number one, what's number two. And so this is really, it ends up being a flood-ish concept. And I say that lightly because 3 is not on the same side as this post and sail route. But he's coming from the backside as that shallow. So really what we're doing is we're keeping some of the routes the same and we're changing 2 kids. Okay. And I'm going to draw it up for you here in just a second, but in this clip, you're going to see the same motion down from the outside. And so we're still going to have our big time dude in the slot, right? Running that big post. Okay. Number 2 is motioning in. He's going to run what we call a circus, which is basically like an inverted corner. So he's going to, release inside, get vertical to 12, and then break it back out. I know other people call it sail. That's why I mentioned it, but we just tell our kids it's a circus. Last time on Washington, we had him run the corner to try to take 2 for 1. Now we're getting a dig. We still got the shallow working across. And then again, as far as the back, we're still what we call mask, which is we're faking the give. Then we're checking protection. Then we're checking down to the flat. And so again, we are going high defender, right? What's his body language? Does he get depth? Okay. When really, again, we're calling this because this corner here is following the big post. Okay. That's, again, that I feel like you should always have a reason for calling it. And that's why we're calling it. So we're reading that top defender, right? We're calling this play because we think that corner is going to follow the big post. And then it's going to open up all this space for us to work that sail or that circus route. And then yet we've still got the same as principles of that guy coming across and being my third option. Could we progress to the dig? Of course. Do we ever get there? No, but it's there. And it's, again, trying to hold that safety down. So, again, you're going to see this as we go through here. But first read, right, we want to hit the home run ball. So right there, right, safety opens up. His hips are pointed out, and yet the post is going behind him. Let it fly. 6. Here it's going to be to the right here. This is by the way, this team that we're playing here is very sound on defense. And some of you guys might watch this throw and go, hey, I don't have a kid in my program that can make that throw. And I get it, man. We don't always have that kid. This kid was special. He's one of my favorite players ever. Like I said, he's a big time kid, fought through a lot of adversity, had the success in his career that he has. And he just absolutely just puts a freaking dot on the sideline here. But he's doing that because you can see that safety, right? He's got a lot of depth. That corner is following the big post. And so that we're now being able to open up, right, that sail. And then obviously that backer is getting a ton of depth. We could come down to the shallow. I'm glad we don't, because I feel like if we did, this Mike would just clean that dude's clock and obviously we make a ridiculous throw. All right. So again, motioning in here. And this is a great job by our kid motioning in. He kind of comes in, gets vertical, puts a little sauce and delays, and then gets out. And obviously that little delay allows for that safety and corner to feel the threat of that big post. Right there, right? Could we have thrown the post? Maybe. I don't know. Quarterback didn't like it. I'm not always going to make a big fuss when we get a big completion. We talked about a lot of times with our kids in the quarterback room, right? See the ball go in the bucket, just see the completion, right? Any completion's a good completion. They all hurt the defense. And so obviously there was a good one there. Okay, here you go. Real game footage of it happening. Again, game 10 for the playoffs. We had been hitting them like you had seen earlier on those clips with the double post. Well, now we're going with that sail concept. So again, reason we're calling it is this kid is matched up with our best kid. That's a favorable matchup in our end. This kid sees our best kid towards the end of the game going vertical like he has all game, and they are like, oh, crap, we're going to take this away. Well, again, we get vertical, we break it out, we take up that space, right? We let it go, big completion, 21-yard gain, okay, towards the end of the game because our fastball worked.
About 10 minutes, Coach.
Gotcha. All right. This is second round of the playoffs. This was a historic rain game. So we're throwing it a little bit later, but we've got to the top. And again, we've got our best kid eating up the corner in the safety. We should be throwing the sail. Pocket kind of breaks down, but obviously we've got this kid wide open, and we have the shallow if we would have been able to throw it. Quarterback escapes out the back door, gets a little bit of yardage here. Again, another example here. This is to the boundary now, so it doesn't have to be exclusively a field thing. Again, a lot of people, Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin made this kind of famous a couple of years ago of running this to the boundary. But again, same read, same as principles. Again, having that kid that can take the top off and eat up the corner and safety, especially if that corner's following them, is big time. Okay, so now what happens when they're just playing a ridiculous amount of depth on you, right? This kid's trying to take away the post. This kid's trying to take away the corner route. Well, we come to what we basically are calling spacing, right? We all kind of know spacing is some sort of, right, one inside guy, one middle guy, one outside guy, varying depths. Obviously, if it's a quick game, you're probably at 5 or 6. Here, we're attaching it to 3 from the gun, so our timing's a little different. And so I'll just explain. We're going hitch. We're going corner here. We are pushing and stemming and making it look like we're running the post. And at 12, we're snapping it down back to 10. On the inside, we're starting to look like we're running that cross and we're breaking it down. We're calling it an OTB, but it's really over the tackle. And then from the back, we're free releasing. So he has no protection responsibilities. What we're telling the quarterback is this: can you throw the hitch and take a free 5 or 6 yards? If you can, do it every single play. Is it man-to-man and you have your best kid in the slot on a favorable matchup? If it is, you'll see a clip here in a little bit, throw the corner route. If it's not, then work the 3-man concept. We're going fast to the flat. It's the first one, right? We're working that kind of deep curl as number 2, and we're working the OTB as number 3. So right there, right, he sees that backer start to push out of the window. So he takes the curl, boom, 12-yard completion. Here it is to the left side. Again, can I throw the hitch route? No, I'm getting press coverage. Okay, that's eliminated. Is it man? I'm not sure. Okay, so that's going to be killed. So I'm just going 1, 2, 3 to the field, back to the curl to the OTB, right? They're playing some sort of inverted 2 with the middle safety dropping down and playing Tampa. And so corner kind of is trying to apex the 2. Boom, put it in. Here to the left now, again, looking at the hitch, we got press coverage. This was a big 2-man team. And we kind of talked about it. So he gets a matchup he likes on the backer. And, well, yeah, of course, everyone's favorite coverage in 7-on-7, 2-man, right? So hit a big play to our slot there on the corner, right? That's the man alert. You could we actually 2 years ago put slot fade there. But we just never we're just not really like a big slot fade team. So again, Reno, that's the spacing concept here to the right. Could we have thrown the hitch to the left? Sure. But this is my backup kid. He was a freshman here. So we're working the outside. Guy chases, boom, hit the inside. Again, my backup here. Probably should have thrown the hitch with the corner kind of at 5 and squatting. He thought he was going to stay hard in the flat. He doesn't. That's fine. Again, a lot of that's pre-snap presentation. I do think we could have gone to the back here, but again, not going to argue with completion. The OTB does a good job of settling and finding the space. And one of the big coaching points is this kid's going to push to like 12, and you say 12 because he's only going to go 10 and then get you to 8. This kid's going to push into 8. He's going to probably get to 7 or 6, and you're looking for 8 yards of horizontal distribution here so that you can make sure one kid can't play 2, okay? That's the big coaching point on those 2 routes. So here it is in a game, right? We're motioning that kid in, making it look like everything else. I do think we threw this too early. We should be taking a 3-step. He's taking a 1-step. He's trying to get the ball in his hands in the flat because he sees the corner sinking so fast. Obviously, backer runs out there, and we only get a gain of 2, but just trying to show you guys in game what it might look like. Here it is versus a very well-coached, athletic, talented team. Again, he goes 1-step because we're getting field side pressure. So we're actually sliding the opposite way. So he knows that the quarterback, is accounting for that rusher off the edge. And so we always talk about feel the rush, throw the rush, right? If you feel that rusher, that free rusher, you're going to throw the rush route, which in this scheme is that running back. Man, we should have got more than 2, but that corner made a good play. Again, trying to put my kids in one-on-one scenarios with open field. Here's another one, motion in. This is a really good look at, backer flows out with the back. That curl opens up, but right there, the coaching point is come back to the ball. So that DB on your backside can't make the play. We don't do that, and he does break this ball up. Last one here. Again, with the double stack, with not motioning into it, right? If we've got the corner here and we've got the hitch here, right? And then we've got, that curl and the sit, and we've got the flat route, right? I'm telling my kid, hey, it's 3rd and 10, man. Like, let's throw the hitch route. There's nobody even close to it. But he works the progression, right? Gets it down to the back. We run a kid over, we get a couple yards, puts us in 4th and manageable. But I think the easier answer probably would have been to get to the hitch route there. All right, Coach.
Yeah, man. You can go ahead and stop sharing if you want to. And I see you got your 3x1 stuff. I'm going to be completely honest with you, Coach. You said this is your first time clinicking. You've done a fantastic job. I'm not even blowing smoke. Like, you are a dude. I'd love to do a part 2 with you one night, if you're down for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been absolutely fantastic. Y'all make sure y'all reach out to Coach on Twitter. Dude's an absolute stud. I'm loving everything, Coach. I got notes over here. I'm gonna be breaking down a lot of this because there's a lot. My next progression, right, is more downfield passing, and then understanding the answers off of it. But one thing I would say that I love that you did was, and you showed 7-on-7 clips, and some people are like, "Oh, 7-on-7," but it's drone film for one, which is fantastic. But then, like, you're showing, hey, what does it look like, right, from like a skeleton look, and then you're going, hey, game film, which you went to that, and then you were like, hey, now you showed the good clips and the bad clips, and then you went to the answers. That was an awesome progression. So I just want to applaud you on that right there. But Coach, I absolutely appreciate you coming on and talking about your stack stuff and RPOs to screens to the then the auxiliary stuff, the stutter and goes and the hook and ladder and then the passing game. Man, I absolutely did love it. I really do appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Would love to do a part 2. There was a lot of information in there, and I know, and so obviously contact info is there for anybody to reach out. I will probably vet you and make sure that you're not on the schedule next year.
Yeah.
But other than that, would love to share. And obviously, again, like I said, coming on here, trying to help the coaching community, because ultimately, if you're a better teacher and you understand the why and you have better tactics, then you're going to make your program and especially your kids better. And like I said in the beginning, right, we're all in this generally, not for the pay. I don't know about you, not for a lot of the glory, right? We're in this for the kids and to give them a great experience. And obviously, you knowing how to coach them and you knowing the whys and you providing them with the answers is giving them the best experience they can have.
For sure. Well, Coach is on Twitter because I'm with you, Coach. I don't want to call it X either. Twitter is at Coach Max10. Coach Scott Maxwell, man, I really do appreciate you. Y'all go follow him. And all the coaches out there, if you are interested in being on the Tatum Clinic series, please DM me. I'll get you the form. We can get you filled out, man. We can get you on here. You can express what y'all are doing at your program and give you a little exposure. Just like I hope Coach Max will gain some followers and people can talk to him a little ball with him. But until the next one, guys, make sure that you are coaching for the kids. And let's go score some points on the defense of this year.